What's up, guys? It's your boy Vance, aka Gain City, and I'm back with another video. And today, we're gonna be talking about staying consistent, man. Staying consistent means a lot, If it doesn't mean a lot to you, you need to start getting that in your head, because it's a lot. It's everything, It's one of those things that, discipline helps you stay on track, It's like, too, with average people, they stay consistent doing lazy things. So either way, whatever you're going after, there's staying consistent can mean for anything, If let's just say you do drugs, which is, really bad for you, you're staying consistent doing drugs. That's bad for you. If you stay consistent of, being better, pushing yourself, you're 9 times out of 10, you're going to be better. You're going to be better if you stay consistent. So staying consistent can mean a whole lot of things. It can mean, if you're trying to lose weight, but you're staying consistent eating, fattening food, then yeah, you're just going to be consistent with overweight. If you stay consistent with, running and this and that, you're going to be able to run faster. You're going to, get better lap times, vice versa. And it's the same thing weightlifting. You stay consistent with weightlifting, you're going to be a freaking beast. Results are going to kick in. You're going to look nice. You're going to, start liking what you see in the mirror. If you stay consistent with not going to the gym, then you're going to stay the same. It's the same thing. Stay consistent can go both ways, whether it's good or bad. Hopefully it's good for you. Hopefully you're doing the right thing. When you can give somebody, say somebody grow up a certain way and you can give them all this stuff, but if they're born that certain way and they're not in that mindset of being able to change for the better, they're going to stay that way. It's that simple. You can give them all this stuff, they're still going to do whatever the heck they want to do, because that's what they do. That's what they stay consistent for. That's their habits. It's the same thing, man. You have to be able to stay consistent and do things that whether you don't want to do, but that's for the better. Do things you don't want to do, or make that habit, make small habits that will help you, be able to stay consistent doing something long term. Like, if you're trying to do weightlifting, you're trying to, lose weight, you're trying to gain weight, gain muscle, all this stuff. You have to stay consistent. I mean, it's not rocket science. You got to stay consistent. In order to be great or get the results that you want, you have to stay consistent. It's that simple, man. You can't be great, doing stuff that average people are doing. You have to exceed. You have to do things that they're not doing. It's like, it's funny how like a lot of people down talk a lot of stuff, for, weightlifting and stuff. Like they'll be, let's just say they're, I remember the whole 225, bench press, and everybody's like, oh, that's just average. No, that's not average. Average people don't work out. Whether it's average people in the gym, who cares? Average people do not work out. Even the people that go to the gym, some average weightlifters don't have a set schedule. They just go when they feel like it. So even then, you're outdoing them. At the end of the day, you need to just focus on yourself. Like I said, stay consistent to your routine. Get better. Have a routine for one. Have a plan. Execute. And just get, like I said, just get better every day. Stop listening to what everybody else got to say. Because what everybody else got to say ain't going to pay your bills. You pay your bills. Whatever you do, decisions you make will determine what's going on in your life. It's that simple. Stop hanging out with people who are going to push you back or hold you back. Hang out with people that are going to better, your knowledge, better your mindset. You get inspired by, y'all are all winning. Have that, whether you have a big circle or small circle. Typically people that have smaller circles in the sense of like real friends and all that, they typically do a lot better than people that's just friends with everybody. Because not everybody's a friend. Not everybody's a friend. Not everybody deserves, like especially if you're on this, on a high level, but you're hanging out with people that's like down here, that's lazy, that don't have no goals. What are you doing? I'm not saying you got to break them off, but I would push them a couple times. If they don't want to do it, then bye-bye. It's that simple. That's a sacrifice. That's part of it. I sacrifice stuff every day. It's like stuff that I would love to do. Like, people are, going to a place or something. Cool, I would love to go. But if I know I got to edit videos, shoot videos, reach out to my fans and stuff, I'm not going. It's that simple. That goes into, I think, one of the, it was like something about it was like something about like distractions and stuff like that, But yeah, man, it's like, yeah, when I was talking about like school and stuff, if you got a test coming up, you got to study, but your girls and all that want to or your boys want to go out to the bar. Like, nah, that's not happening. You have something that you're going after that's bigger than all of that. It's that simple. You have to stay consistent and focus on that. Not doing stuff that's going to push you back, hold you back. That's not what your goals are even are. It's not good for you. It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to make sure you accomplish that goal or dream. You're not going to reach success doing that. The only way you're going to reach success is staying consistent on, like I said, whatever your goal is, doing that, accomplishing it, doing it time after time after time after time, whether you fail or not. You keep going. And that's another thing, staying consistent comes with that whole failing. It's funny how, like, because like me, I also do like investing and all that stuff. It's funny how people will, like, you'll tell them like about, let's just say a stock or like a crypto or something, and they'd be like, oh, I ain't doing that. What if it goes down? And let's just say it's like $30. And you're like, oh, what if it goes down? I'm gonna lose my money. But you go and spend your money on out to eat. That money's gone. At least that money that you could have put into whatever this investment was could have made you money. Whether it goes down or not, that's money that you were already going to spend on something stupid, something that's temporary. At least this is longevity. This can potentially be something. It's the same thing. People staying consistent on what they're doing. People that just go out to eat or watch TV or whatever. They do whatever they want to do. They're staying consistent to that. That's their routine, rather than somebody who's pushing themselves, reading books or something, or doing something that's productive. Doing productive work. That's on them. That's their staying consistent to that. Who do you think is going to succeed more? Like, it's that simple. You have to stay consistent on your goals and dreams, and like I say, and actually put together a plan, and like I said, execute. It's that simple, man. Make it a habit. You kind of, depending on what it is, you kind of got to be obsessed with it, because that's what it takes. Obsession is not something bad when it comes to something that's positive. I'm not talking about negative stuff. You got some people that's like, oh, like I put something like that, like obsession is necessary, when it comes to your goals and dreams, doing something that's great, something that's positive, and people put dumb stuff like gambling or, just dumb stuff. I'm like, it's like, what is wrong with you, man? Sometimes I leave that comment up there just so people can look at them and just like, what are you doing? What are you saying? Like, people take stuff as a joke, and they do that with their lives. This stuff's not a joke. At the end of the day, it's up to you to determine on your future. You're gonna keep on joking around, taking life easy, trying to be on everybody's good side, trying to be that yes man, yes woman, like whatever. Like, is that what you're trying to do, or are you gonna put together a plan and execute on stuff that you want to do, your goals and dreams, and actually accomplish it? Strive for greatness, exceed it. Be the example. Set a new record. Records are broken every day, man. You can set that record. You might not think you can, but you can set that record. So yeah, man, keep going. Remember, never stay satisfied. And I'll see you on the next video.